It's not as athletic, and it's not as healthy, and that's that. And it's also not arbitrary. And so the whole thing is a lie. And then it's...
So as some of you might know, Jordan Peterson recently got into some hot water on Twitter for stating that a Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue with the cover model being obese was not beautiful. I'm going to present to you a 6-minute clip of Jordan Peterson himself discussing his tweet with his daughter Michaela, and then I'm going to come back with some commentary. But make sure to thumb up the video and subscribe. Hit the all notification bell if you do. And here's Jordan discussing.
A couple weeks ago, you tweeted something out that, yeah, I'm bringing it up, that got a crazy amount of attention, which... Did it?
Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition, I believe you're referring to.
Yes.
I tweeted out, sorry, not beautiful. Yeah, people weren't very happy with that.
And then everyone got upset.
Yes, they did. And then I left Twitter again, more or less, right after that. And everyone assumed that that was why. And it wasn't.
No.
It was, I suppose in some sense it was, because what happened was an indication of the problem with Twitter. But I had been not reading Twitter comments for about 3 weeks, although I had been tweeting through an intermediary, one of my staff members. So I'd email him a tweet, but not reading comments because I found that quite...
irksome?
Yeah,
like you're associating with the...
devil?
Sure, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it was like sort of like standing in a public park where anybody, no matter who they were, could come up and yell at you to any size audience about anything they wanted, day or night. And so I've been thinking that through. I'm going to write an article about what's wrong with Twitter and social media in general. But no, I looked at the Sports Illustrated cover, and they had a rather overweight young woman, quite symmetrical, so nice facial features and so forth, with a very revealing swimsuit on the cover. And I thought, no, like not in a personal way, but it's unbelievably manipulative for about 3 different reasons. The first is it's a very tawdry attempt to capitalize on cheap sales. And I mean cheap in a specific way. Sports Illustrated hit the gold mine with their swimsuit cover, I suppose 20 years ago, whenever they established that. Because it was obviously it's a sports magazine, so it's about athletics. It's about athletic people. It's about athletic bodies. And they had a swimsuit issue, and it really was a big hit. And then it became kind of a cultural icon. And it's a very specific kind of cultural icon because it focuses on a very exceptional kind of high-end beauty. And so that beauty would involve symmetry and signals of youth, because that's part of beauty, sexual beauty, physical beauty, waist to hip ratio for women. But with Sports Illustrated, it's also highlighting a kind of athleticism in body type. And that's a very specific form of beauty. You have to be young, you have to be female, generally, you have to be extremely athletic, you have to be shapely in a very particular way, and that would be with a waist to hip ratio of 0.68, because that's what's been established cross-culturally as ideal from the perspective of male sexual interest, let's say, but that's also associated with fertility.
Yeah.
And so it's a marker that has a biological basis. And so even if you're a very beautiful woman, you're hard-pressed to be beautiful enough to be on the cover of Sports Illustrated for the swimsuit issue. And so it's a pinnacle achievement of sorts, and it's focused on a very idealized and specific form of beauty. And that's obviously exclusionary. It's obviously exclusionary. It excludes everyone. Right. And it does that to highlight a kind of ideal, and that's a particular ideal of beauty. And there are some cultural boundaries around that. So you could say, well, it's a westernized form of beauty. It's like, yeah. And you can point to Rubens' paintings of more plump women and say, well, there's an exception. It's like, great. You think you're a genius for finding that exception. Good for you. You know the Rubens painting. Like, more power to you. But that doesn't mean anything at all about the universality of images of beauty. And so the cover bothered me a lot because it was a cheap manipulation of something that had been working very well for Sports Illustrated. It was also an insistence that all of a sudden this non-athletic body type is as beautiful as the standard swimsuit model for Sports Illustrated. And it's not. It's not as athletic, and it's not as healthy, and that's that. And it's also not arbitrary. And so the whole thing is a lie. And then it's a lie that's a manipulation of that young woman. Now, she partakes in that because she participates in it. But it's still, they're not on her side. They're exploiting her, as far as I'm concerned. And she may be participating in that exploitation, but they're still exploiting her. So don't pull any moral stunts on me because you're irritated about my opinion about the Sports Illustrated cover when it's bloody clear to anybody with eyes that that was manipulative in 20 different ways. And I'm also not willing to sacrifice these ideals for inclusiveness. It's like, no, not everyone's a genius. No, not everyone's Picasso. No, not everyone's young and healthy. And no, not everyone is a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model, period. And fuck you if you don't like it.
Thoughts? Hell yeah, I agree with Jordan Peterson. It is not beautiful. And the reason that it's not beautiful is because it's unhealthy. We are all attracted to healthy people that are most likely to generate healthy and fit offspring. That is the reason that we look for symmetry in the face. That is the reason that we look for physical fitness, for the ability to think. All of these things are part of how we judge a potential partner. So when you see somebody who's morbidly obese, who might have symmetrical features in the face, that does not necessarily mean that she's healthy. Thus, most men are going to shy away from the fatties, unless you're one of my black friends. God bless you. Feel free. Have at it. However, it is once again this equity notion that everybody must be equal, that nobody can attain the pinnacle of achievement. So, for example, if you are able to climb Mount Everest, you have done something that few people, percentage-wise, have been able to accomplish. Yet, in order to reach that pinnacle, I can just put on virtual reality goggles and say that I'm there and pretend that I'm there. No, we do not get to redefine what it means to climb to the top of Mount Everest. And similarly, we don't get to arbitrarily redefine what it means to be beautiful and attractive. That obese is unattractive. And again, this is the equity notion that is being put into our society by force. I don't know whether Sports Illustrated is so bereft of readership that they had to attract temporary attention to themselves by putting this model on their cover at the loss of their long-term brand, which they built over the years. It used to be that the Sports Illustrated swimsuit models were the pinnacle of beauty, as Jordan has stated. And we all have different proclivities. We all have different talents. I cannot, as much as I desire to be able to play basketball at the same level as LeBron James, I am not as athletically gifted genetically. Similarly, he can't string a sentence together, but that's a different talent that we all might have. So why do we have to agree that this is beautiful? Because the social media will come down on us because people just want to sit in their houses and order Postmates and have food delivered, and they can fatten themselves up and they can feel better about themselves because everybody else is the same and they get to define themselves as beautiful. No, we have exceptionalism in this world, and that is why Elon Musk is the richest man in this world. He has created Tesla and SpaceX and the Boring Company and has generated tremendous good for mankind, introducing new technologies. That's why the founders of Google are some of the richest people in the world. Along with Bill Gates, think what you want of him. He was a successful businessman and the pinnacle of businessmen. So good for him. Good for everybody who's achieved something, but you are trying to cheapen it because you are jealous and trying to give us this equity in thinking that everybody's the same. Once again, I cannot dunk the ball like LeBron. Neither can all of us, and that is why we praise and worship LeBron James. If somebody else has won the genetic lottery and is featured on the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue, well, good for them. But somebody does not get to eat Ho-Hos and Oreos all day long and get to appear alongside of them as the definition of beauty according to the male, if I can say that, if we can say that men are not women and have different proclivities in terms of sexual desires and what we want from a mate, which is largely beauty. And this woman is not beautiful. Jordan is absolutely correct. Thank you for standing up for truth. And I hope that all of you stand up for truth. And feel free to join me at rumble.com because YouTube is utterly censorious and my channel here is not long for the world. Peace, blessings. Thumb up the video, subscribe, hit the all notification bell. Have a fantastic day. Go Jordan Peterson. You're the man.